As delivers. Freddie hits the ball to right field. She is gone! Gibby meet Freddie. Game 1 of the World Series.
In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
This is baseball. It repeats itself. That's why we love it. Welcome to the latest edition of Crafting the Call. On this week's episode, we're looking back at all the best calls from the 2024 postseason. I'm Josh Suchon, voice of the Albuquerque Isotopes.
And I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler with the Lansing Lugnuts. Josh, have you ever heard that line, those who do not learn their history are doomed to repeat it? If you're a Dodgers fan, repeating your history, not such a bad thing.
I think throughout the 2024 postseason, we saw so much history, so much repeating of history, whether it was a ball off the bat of a player named Mookie that goes to the first baseman, or whether it's a fan in New York somewhere in right field or in foul territory that gets involved in a play. We had a lot of baseball repeating itself this October.
So when we got together on Crafting the Call, now that we have a champion crowned, congratulations to the Dodgers. But we saw wildness and clutchness and really moments that are worth reliving. So let's take a tour back through the 2024 playoffs, shall we?
Yeah. Shall we begin with the wild card? Because whenever I think of 2024 wild card, with all due respect to the other series, there's only one that's going to be in my brain forever.
Let's go.
Maybe his last Mets at bat. He could make it his most memorable. Swinging a fly ball to right field. Pretty well hit. Frelick back at the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career. Pumps his fist as he rounds second. It's a 3-run homer. He's given the Mets a 3-2 lead. Pete Alonso keeps this fairy tale season going with the fairy tale swing of his career. 3-2 New York. Unbelievable. The story, or one of the storylines of this year, the struggles of Pete Alonso in his walk year. Swinging a liner toward short. Picked by Lindor on one hop. Runs to second. One throws to first. Out at first. Out at first. Put it in the box. The Mets are out at the mound, pouncing on each other. This party is headed to Philadelphia. The New York Mets have won this wild card series as Lindor played that soft liner perfectly, and the New York Mets have defeated the Milwaukee Brewers by a score of 4-2.
Howie Rose, New York Mets radio, obviously the distinctive voice that we heard there. I thought that Howie was totally on his game throughout the entire postseason. And these were calls where I think there's two different types of calls here, which is why I'm glad that we're looking at these. The home run is a very specific type of call, right? It's a short hop. It's a run to the bag. It's here's the final out. And now we're kind of recapping the fact that moved on. We're going to Philadelphia. The party is going to Philadelphia. And then the second one that we heard, which came first chronologically, of course, is Alonso's home run. And that is, we've talked a lot on Crafting the Call, Jesse, about how your voice rises. And I think it's the classic case of, he describes a ball and it's hit pretty well, right? He's not going into a home run call immediately because he's not sure. It's hit pretty well. He's describing what the outfielder is doing, how he's going back, how he leaps at the wall. And then you get how he just going, right? And how he just goes and goes and goes. Like the emotion just comes pouring out of Howie's veins here as he describes this moment.
Well, there's a quality of being a broadcaster. I don't know if this hit you. When I first tried broadcasting, when I first was on the air, when a moment would be big, it would be very difficult to find the words. Because the classic thing to do is either to go silent or to start making sounds or to start going, oh! To find the words in a moment is difficult. I can give you the quibble. I don't think Frelick jumped. I don't think he leaped to the wall. I think he mistimed it. And I think as he tried to take off, he went right into that wall and there was no chance. The ability of Howie at that moment, and then as the moment is crescendoing and it's now being understood by everybody, here's what has happened, to be able to say, let me put words to this as we are moving on. What does this mean to the team? What does this mean to the player? And here we go. This is difficult.
Even immediately putting into perspective, like, this is what he's doing is he's going around the bases.
Yes.
These are it's one thing to say he's circling the bases, everyone's going mad. It's another thing to describe where he is on the bases and what types of celebrations. Is it a high five? Is it a hug? Who's waiting for him? How many people are waiting for him? Those are the distinctive details that make radio so rich and, Jesse, are so hard to do in the moment when it's such a thrilling moment.
You don't have too much crowd reaction behind you because you're on the road. So there is no crowd trying to drown you out at the same time.
I've never been in a situation remotely as big as that, but there have been times where I'm broadcasting a game, whether it's college baseball or minor league baseball, and I'm really close to the fans, not way up high atop some 50,000 seat stadium. And a big hit gets delivered and the crowd goes quiet. And here am I.
Yes.
Being loud, being happy, talking with a lot of enthusiasm and feeling people turn around and wondering why this person is so excited. And it's one of those things where early in my career, I would get self-conscious, and now, like, I don't care. I'm here. I got a job to do. I'm doing this job, and I don't care how many people turn around and give me dirty looks. But there's something about being high atop a 50,000 seat stadium when the crowd has gone quiet and you can just really lean into a call like this, Jesse.
Have you ever had the opposite, where there's a huge home run hit against your closer and you say, it's gone? And then you look over to that other broadcast booth and you hear everything that's getting said as they're whooping it up.
Well, put it this way, Jesse. The Isotopes are 157 games under 500 during my 11 years broadcasting them. So yes, there has been a lot of times when my team has given up a huge home run and I looked over to the side and seen the other broadcaster going nuts.
One last thought about this. There's the Vin Scully school of let it breathe. You call it, you lay out, and then you come back. There's this style where you just keep on broadcasting. I would argue that both of these are tough, and that if there's an inexperienced broadcaster, if there's a broadcaster who's watching this and listening to this and saying, I'm going to be like Howie, I'm going to try this call, this is very difficult to do. It is so tough to have your brain and your mouth on the same track in this moment. And so the word that comes to my mind first is breathless.
I'm going to say what works for me. And again, my moments I think are dramatic, and they are in the context of the Albuquerque Isotopes. They're not dramatic in terms of the context of a postseason game. What works for me is quicker pauses, not a super long 30-second layout, but just enough of a layout, whether that's 2 to 5 seconds, where I can catch my breath, where I can maybe think about what's going to come next, when I can maybe match my words to a picture, where I can kind of soak it all up. But most importantly, I just catch my breath. Say a few more things. Again, pause, catch my breath. To me, it's somewhere in between going with the words versus a long layout and then trying to come up with some incredible Vin Scullyism, which I cannot do. That's what works for me.
The party goes on. Out of the wild card, let's advance ourselves
to the division series.
There's a 2-1. There's a drive. It's a bullet. Was there any doubt? Shohei Ohtani arrives in October with a 3-run home run.
The game's brightest star, ready for the game's biggest stage. A game-tying 3-run home run.
Are you nervous? Nope. Liner caught by Rocchio. Oh, wow. Brian Rocchio timed his leap, snatches it out of the air. Leaping grab by Rocchio.
Well, if Brian Rocchio's vertical leap was 12 inches, he just went about 16. And Bohm goes after the first pitch, trying to get on base, and he'll do it. Bangs off the wall. He's gunning for 2. The throw from center. He is off the bag, and the tag is applied.
What a throw. What a tag. Bohm out at second, 2 down in the 4th. Taylor hooks up with Lindor. What a play by the Mets.
Taylor got a good hop, barehanded it, made a strong throw, and Lindor was able to get the tag on the shoulder of Bohm.
1-2 pitch to Castellanos. Into left field, down the line, it's a fair ball, and the Phillies have tied the series. Back to Queens, one apiece. Castellanos the hero. And the Phillies walk it off here in the bottom of the 9th. A Game 2 victory, 7-6, as the Phillies come racing out of the dugout, dancing around between first and second as Nick Castellanos has won the ball game.
2-2, Sweeney takes off, fly ball right field. This one's deep. Going back is Brennan. He's looking up, and it's gone! Oh, man! Kerry Carpenter with 2 outs in the 9th. A 3-run bomb, and the Tigers take the lead 3-0.
That Tiger dugout is absolutely mad right now.
First one to Mookie Betts. Is lifted in the air to left field. It sends Profar back, tiptoeing to the corner. He's at the wall. It is. Nobody's sure yet. Now they say
he caught it.
he caught it. Mookie Betts is rounding the bases thinking that it's a home run. Jurickson Profar says, I got it.
He was doing the old, I'm going to just melt this.
All right. So a number of different calls in a row, Jesse. Which one do you want to begin with?
I would like to begin with the very first one that we saw, which was Joe Davis calling Shohei Ohtani's home run. I love Joe saying, was there any doubt before the ball has landed?
I think it becomes an interesting time capsule too, right? This is Shohei Ohtani's first at bat of the postseason, his first at bat, and he hits a home run. And this is the biggest story going into the postseason. And now that we are a month later, we understand that Shohei did not hit any additional home runs throughout the postseason, right? And he hurt his shoulder, and he was clearly not 100% by the end. In the moment, though, we didn't know that at the time. In the moment, it was, oh my goodness, what is Shohei Ohtani going to do this entire month? And I think it's just a fabulous call of that moment, that first at bat, and here we go, Shohei in October.
Then the next one that I would like to point out is I'd like to criticize a broadcaster who I'm then going to follow up with praise. I don't like Adam Amin's call of the Bohm tag out at second. His words are off the base and the tag is applied. And I would argue he's off the base because he hasn't arrived yet by a millisecond. It's a brilliant defensive play. He gets tagged high and then he slides in. But I love Adam's call of the Castellanos walk-off.
Yeah, when it comes to that play at second, I think this is one of the dangers of being too descriptive in the moment, right? Because the words that might come to your mind, or maybe even just what you see out there, might not exactly be what happened. And because it's TV and we're going to have every single angle of it, I think you kind of have to kind of couch yourself a little bit and just simply say out, out or safe, or they got him or something like that. And then you know that you're going to see it from all these different angles because the production value is so good these days. And you're going to have your analysts in the booth where you can then go back to say if he indeed was off the bag or something like that. Again, it's just one of those things that's so hard to do in the moment when you're trying to be as precise as possible with your words. And sometimes you just get caught when you think this is what happened.
I would also argue, I know Adam, he prepares great. He's a very smart person. I think he's constantly playing with his words and saying, what can I use to describe this that maybe I haven't tried before, trying not to get lazy with his language. And so it's a case where he tried something, it didn't work in this moment, but I think he's going to take that and learn from it.
I've never met Adam. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I thought he was outstanding throughout the postseason. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because now that I think about it, he doesn't have the same home run call, right? He's looking for different ways to describe things. And I think that even just like the way that he would set up his analysts, you can tell that he's someone who's thinking about different ways. I can definitely relate to how many different ways can I describe a ground ball to the shortstop? Or even how many different ways can I describe a home run? There's 200 of them in Albuquerque every year, right? And sometimes your brain says this, and then your mind goes, oh, no, describe it a different way. And it doesn't become as clean. It doesn't become just as precise because you're searching for that verb that you haven't used.
Let me give you something that we call the Adam Amin rule, and we'll move on. Adam believes that you punctuate a home run call, that you get big the exact second that the ball lands, whether it's in someone's glove, it lands in the stands, it lands up on the grass, whenever that is, the second that ball lands is the second you punctuate it. And it's a great aspirational goal for a broadcaster.
So, if your voice is going like this, right? If it's going up and up,
yes,
it should hit the ceiling when it's gone.
Yes. The second that ball lands is the second you hit it.
Even if it's obvious that it's going to be gone, right? You use that time when the ball is still in the air to say your words to build it up. And so when it gets here, that's the peak.
Exactly. I love that rule.
I love that rule too. Ooh, new rule in Albuquerque. All right, let's keep moving on to the American League Championship Series.
Swung out and hammered high, deep to left, away, out of here. Bedlam in Cleveland. Swung on, hit high, hit deep to left. There she goes. How about that? A walk-off, two-run home run to the bleachers and left by David Fry.
Wow. I think that Tom Hamilton might have been the breakout star of the postseason.
For anyone who didn't know, now you know. Let me point out two quick things about Tom Hamilton. He's a let it breathe guy. He's got the great voice, but he says what he says, he waits, and then he comes back. And did you notice how he is able to go down with his voice before coming back? So he shoots up, swung on, and then he launches into it. And then he comes down while it's measured, and he's still holding it and can punctuate it. He has masterful control of his voice.
If you live in Cleveland and you're like, what do you mean? We've known that he's a star for a long time, right? Or if you're a Guardians fan, then you've known that he's incredible for a very long time. I think on a national stage, a lot of people probably didn't know just how good he was until this postseason. And now we've gotten to this time and place where all the calls instantly go up and we get all the different versions of all the different calls that instantly go up on social media so that we can appreciate them and we can analyze them here on Crafting the Call. And to me, Tom Hamilton is the ultimate in what I was talking about earlier about, I like the little pause so I can catch my breath. And that's kind of what he did on both of these calls, right? Even on the first one, he said hammered instead of belted, which is normally his verb, right? Bedlam in Cleveland. There's a pause. Bedlam in Cleveland. For the second one, there she goes, a pause. How about that? Again, I think he was the breakout star of the postseason. Hammy was magnificent throughout the entire month.
There's something that broadcasters do. When the Commanders just had their Hail Mary, Jim Nantz is saying it's a madhouse in Landover. Here's Bedlam in Cleveland. I've heard broadcasters say pandemonium. That comment on the stadium, the comment that takes you out, that broadens the field of focus.
I love the word bedlam too, because a lot of times when that is said, it's something like they're going nuts. They're going crazy. They're going like there's just a few words that just get said over and over. But bedlam is not a word that gets used over and over, which to me elevates this call because not only is he nailing it with his voice, with the ups and the downs and the pauses and the big booming over 100 miles an hour on his fastball voice, but then using a word like bedlam or even just saying, how about that? And lay back.
It's such a contrast to me between Howie, it's constant words. And I'm not saying necessarily I prefer this over this. I just think that we can enjoy, here's this style, here's this style, here's the Hamilton voice, here's the Hamilton word choice, and then the pause to layout.
And I actually think that it's best that you kind of do a little bit of everything. I wouldn't want to get into a situation for any broadcaster where it's a formula. Where it's a formula where you say this, you pause. Like I wouldn't want a formula because it's all about just being in the moment and what that moment means. And whatever your brain goes to, hopefully it comes out the right way. But I think there's kind of a time and place for both of them. And I hope that that all announcers use different types of styles, in order to make each one of them unique in themselves.
Here's where I'd argue the formula occurs, and maybe formula is the wrong word, but Hammy uses swung on, and that allows his brain to process what he is watching as he is saying. There's a broadcaster debate. Should you say swing and a? Should you say swung on? What should you say? And that's one that, once again, people come to their personal opinions, but there's no true north. There's no right answer. That is his style that he can then launch off of.
And he's outstanding with it. All right, let's continue.
There was another home run. There was a home run that was a little bit later on, though.
Yeah, let's get to this other one.
This will be pitch number 7. The count is still 1-2. Castiglione, Soto, a high fly ball to center. Thomas backing up. Thomas at the track. And Juan Soto! A 3-run home run! Soto magic in Game 5! An incredible moment as Juan Soto goes deep to give the Yankees a 5-2 lead in the 10th inning.
Couple of things here, Josh. Brian Anderson on the call. Did you notice how late he recognizes that there's a chance for this to be a home run? But then he lets the pictures take over. So it's Soto magic in Game 5. And then it's all these visuals. Here's where I'd go. Boy, wouldn't it have been something if, just like we heard Bedlam in Cleveland, if BA had mentioned the crowd in some way, like Soto silences, whatever it might be. But that Anderson is able to go from, okay, fly ball center field, to that elevated Soto magic, because this ball is gone, and here's what this moment means.
A couple of things that I really appreciated about what Brian did at the start of this. So this is the 7th pitch of the at-bat, and I always try to keep really precise what number pitch is it in this at-bat, because I think that the longer the at-bat goes on, that becomes a big storyline. So for him to say this is pitch number 7, and the count is still 1-2, I think that he has set up the moment perfectly, and that puts him in position. The other thing that he did that I really enjoy is, I think we've talked about this before, because of my journalism background, I'm kind of a beginning of the at-bat, first name, last name. It's like the first time that you reference someone in a newspaper article, first name, last name. Then throughout the at-bat, it's last name. But then when the player does something spectacular, then you go first name, last name again, and it makes it more dramatic. So the way that he just says, Juan Soto, kind of pauses, right? And then Soto magic. So there's just a lot of things that the BA did on that call that I just really appreciate. And when it comes to, like, did he know? Home runs to center field are the hardest ones to judge, right? You don't have the angle in order to know for sure where it is. A lot of times you don't know that it's gone until the center fielder does one of those.
What I've started to do, and I've heard this from other broadcasters, you mention the batter's reaction. Soto thinks he got it, whatever it might be, because that is your first step. There's the batter's reaction, and now you get to watch that ball travel, and you get to see Did he get it?
Speaking of batters' reaction, did you notice this postseason, or was it just me? It felt like the directors, especially on Fox, after the ball was hit, they stayed on the hitter for about a second longer than they used to. It used to be that almost, again, in my opinion, used to be that almost immediately after the ball is made contact, you go to the high home camera to see where the ball is going. And the number of times in the postseason where the ball is hit, it's out of the camera's view. And I'm sitting there going, where'd it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? And you see the camera linger on the hitter for his reaction.
Yes.
And it feels like an eternity. Maybe it's a half second. Maybe it's 2 seconds. I don't know. But it feels like an eternity. And then we start to see where the ball is. I got faked out so many times as a fan watching on my couch because the director did not cut to the high home. And I'm wondering if this was an intentional type of decision that was made, knowing that baseball has gotten to the point where part of the story is how does the player react to his own hit?
Thumbs up from me. And you also get to watch the pitcher react. But I've gone back and I've watched the 1984 World Series as someone who grew up a Tigers fan. And there's Tigers, Padres. And each player on each of these teams, whenever someone had a big swing, they are celebrating out of the batter's box and they are celebrating around the bases. This is not something that is a modern 2024 thing necessarily, especially as these games get big. I love watching everyone's reaction toward their own dugout, toward their bullpen.
It does create an extra sense of drama. Where is the ball? And it's only a second, but again, it feels like it's so long. And again, maybe I was just upset because I got faked out so many times, or I'm jumping up off the couch going, oh no, that's a routine fly ball to left.
Well, as a broadcaster, if you're trying to call the game off a screen.
Yes, that's a very good point. If you are calling a game off a screen, and thank goodness none of these announcers are doing it in October, you really have to wait in order for the picture to tell you exactly what's happening.
Well, that's what I saw sometimes was there were certain swings that looked big and then they didn't go anywhere. Do you remember there was an Aaron Judge flyout that went to medium depth left field? Oh, let's go.
That's what John Sterling did, right?
Yes. There were other swings that were homers that the broadcasters were tardy in recognizing, oh, this has a chance. So it's interesting. And why is this the case? How is this the moment? I love trying to connect that together. The eyes, where is the eye discipline, and what are you putting together?
Yeah, I would love to know if the directors are doing this on purpose, if there's like a certain number of seconds that they are intentionally kind of waiting on, and whether the announcers are looking at their monitor or whether they're watching the field with their eyes because of that to make sure they don't get fooled.
Yeah, it's important. All right, so this is Soto blasting the Yankees past the Guardians, so you know what round we're up to. We
are up to the World Series in Game 1.
Now, the kind of at-bat that every kid that plays baseball dreams of one day having. You tell yourself, right, all right, bottom of the 10th, bases loaded, World Series, one-run game, Dodgers, Yankees. Reality for Freddie Freeman right here. Cortez delivers. Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone! Gibby meet Freddie. Game 1 of the World Series. As it was on an October night 36 years ago, a hobbled Game 1 hero for the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman with a walk-off grand slam to win Game 1 of the World Series 6-3 over the Yankees.
Unbelievable. I mean, there's just no way to describe it.
Would you say you don't believe what you just saw?
The Yankees 3, the Dodgers 2. The bases are loaded, 2 out, bottom of the 10th inning. The scenario you dream about, Freddie is living. First pitch swinging, high fly ball, hit deep, back and gone! Freddie Freeman channeling his inner Kirk Gibson. A walk-off home run in Game 1 of the World Series. A walk-off grand slam. They celebrate at the plate. Winners 6-3.
Cortez out of the stretch. And the pitch. Swing and a drive. Right field. On its way. Gone. Ball game. A walk-off grand slam.
Freddie Freeman. And the Dodgers take game one. Holy cow. Freddie Freeman, the hero, as he circles the bases. And they wait to mob him at home plate. What a moment for Freeman as he blasted that one over the right field wall. A walk-off grand slam. And that is how game one ends in the 10th.
Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Dodgers down to their final out. Freeman drives one. Deep right field. It is gone! A World Series walk-off grand slam for Freddie Freeman. Wow. And his ankle may not quite be Kirk Gibson injury level, but there's some shades of that all-time at bat from the 1988 MVP in Freddie Freeman's swing to win game one, 6-3. An all-time moment.
Oh, what a fabulous game. Well, bases loaded, 2 outs. Come down to this. Freddie Freeman, the hitter, lefty to lefty with 2 outs pitch. A high drive to right. Soto back on the track, and she is gone. A grand slam to win the game for LA. Freddie Freeman hit one to deep right and out. A grand slam, and the Dodgers win 6-3. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
All right. In order, we just heard Joe Davis on Fox. We heard Steven Nelson on Dodgers radio, Boog Sciambi on ESPN radio. That was Dave Fleming on Major League Baseball International feed. And of course, John Sterling on Yankees radio. Where do you want to begin, Jesse?
For me, the first place that I want to begin is John Sterling also saying she is gone. John's famous home run call is, it is high, it is far, it is gone. I did not know that he said she is gone for this one, which Joe was rightfully lauded for in his reference to Vin.
It goes to show, though, how you can say the exact same words and how elongating words and emphasizing words, because there's a difference between "and she is gone" versus, Vin's was "she is gone," and Joe Davis's was a more punctuated, louder, kind of bolder punch to the into the air, "she is gone." And so again, it's the same words, but it to me, it kind of evokes 3 different types of different reactions based on how big you make the call or how soft you make the call.
Where do you want to begin?
I want to go to Steven Nelson. So a lot of people might be wondering, where's Charlie Steiner? Charlie Steiner has been out the entire season. Long time Dodgers play-by-play announcer who was also with the Yankees for a while. I remember watching Charlie on SportsCenter for the longest time. And at the start of the season, it was announced that Charlie was going to miss some time due to a back injury. We found out this week that he has cancer, actually. Los Angeles Times columnist Bill Plaschke wrote a beautiful column. And good news to report, Charlie Steiner said, remission is a beautiful word. Monday, meaning in the middle of the World Series, was one of those days where it was like, okay, we are good. He had been battling multiple myeloma blood cancer. That's a terrible disease. It took the life of one of my closest friends from college. And Charlie Steiner is 75 years old. It is his hope, and the Dodgers have said that they are planning on having him back in the booth next season. And so that's why we were hearing Steven Nelson instead of Charlie Steiner there on Dodgers radio. And I think that he rose to the moment there as well. I think that it's kind of hard not. You have to use Kirk Gibson's name at some point, right? Game one, left-handed batter, walk-off. And so we heard different versions of it, right? Gibson-esque, I think Dave Fleming was kind of couching his a little bit more. Maybe it's not quite the severity of an injury, but shades of it. And I think that everybody was just right on this moment in the way that you should be.
Boog didn't mention it, right? And so because of that, I do think that I want to tip my cap to those broadcasters that connected it. And in a moment, we'll find out what was the thinking for Joe Davis. back to Steven Nelson and back for all these broadcasters. I want you to consider this moment real quick, because this was bang, bang, bang. Everything was leading up to, would Ohtani have a chance to bat in this bottom of the 10th inning? All right, now we've got 2 runners on, and now the Yankees go to the bullpen, and here's Ohtani, and he's out on the first pitch on a brilliant catch by Verdugo on left, going into the leaving the field of play. So because of that, the runners are moved up, and now the Yankees immediately intentionally walk Mookie Betts. There's a lot that happens in a very short interval, and then Freddie hits the very first pitch out. You've got no time. So if you've been thinking about Ohtani, now you've got to set up the pitching change. Now you're talking about this defensive gem. Now you're talking about, my goodness, the Yankees are 1 out away from winning this thing. You can hear in Steven's call, he is just trying to set things up, just trying to say, well, this is a moment that you dream of as the pitch arrives. It is very difficult for all these broadcasters to transition to calling this Freeman at bat. And then it's gone.
And let's be honest, this is where you really need the help of whoever you're working with to make sure that they leave you time to set it up.
Yes.
Right? Like whoever the analyst is has to make sure that you want to give them space, right? That they're there for a reason. You want to give them space to get something in here, but you hope that they can then pass it back to you in the right amount of time so that you can set this up and be ready for that first pitch.
Yes.
All right. So the other thing about Joe Davis's call to me is saying she is gone was just magnificent. And we heard it at the beginning about how it's almost to the exact second when you sync them up. But Gibby meet Freddie. You know, if there was ever a doubt that Joe Davis has elevated himself to the top of the profession, this postseason, that game, that call illustrated why he is so spectacular.
Well, he has the voice. He has the delivery. He has the voice to go big. He also is a student of this. So there's the work ethic, there's the intellect, and then there's the ability to study and then be able to use it. I would also argue, and I was trying to let people know in the moment, I'm going, did anybody else other than me catch the wink to Jack Buck? Yes. Because Joe is so in his moment. He is nerding out. I guarantee he is right there thinking of Gibby, thinking of this moment. And then because he's like us, because he loves broadcasting history and baseball history, he's going, I'm going to go from Vin to Jack, and I'm just going to wink at everybody. And I'm picturing the smile on his face.
So many winks. And then Joe was interviewed next day, and let's listen to Joe describe how he got to this place to make that call.
You don't want to script it because I think then it's going to sound scripted. But anybody who tells you, no, it just comes to me, they're either brilliant or they're lying. Like for me, I can't just properly do my job and caption these moments, just have it come to me in that moment. So I'm always thinking about the context of if this moment were to happen. You know, you lean forward into a situation where the Dodgers are down a run or whatever it was going into that 9th inning or 10th inning. What would it mean if they did have a comeback? It's got to be more than just home run Freddie Freeman, Dodgers win. That's not quite doing my job. So I'm thinking about the fact that it's game one, like it was in '88 when Gibson hit his home run. As Freddie Freeman comes up, the next layer to that is that this is an injured player the same way that Kurt Gibson was. And then for me, it was the flight of the ball that we've all seen a million times on that highlight of Vin Scully calling Kurt Gibson's home run. That sparked for me the nod to Vin. So just a lot of different layers to kind of wrapping your mind around the context and then hoping that it comes out.
Well, I mean,
right.
There's already T-shirts, by the way. Gibby meet Freddie.
Man, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love Joe. I really appreciate him as a human being. And I like that he gets to give everyone this peek behind the curtain. He's thinking about this beforehand, and he's thinking about all the different elements that go into it. And that whole notion that you can't script it because it will sound scripted. So here's our happy medium. You do have to prepare. You can't go at it blank slate. Otherwise, you don't have it. So you've got to find in between. Anyone else is either brilliant or lying is such a good way of categorizing it. And it's also him being humble, him being like, I'm not brilliant, so here's what I've got to do with it. And so the idea of those ingredients getting baked together, what leads up to the at-bat, and then the flight of the ball being the final trigger. I appreciate that. And that is going internal for a broadcaster.
The word that comes to mind is just genuine. There's just a lot of Joe Davis just sounds extremely genuine during the broadcast as he's doing that interview afterwards. You can just, even the way that he looks at John Smoltz, sometimes you're just like, he's this kid who's like, holy cow, I get to work with John Smoltz, you know?
A kid who studied. Like
Yep.
all of this, everything with Joe is about preparation. And that's voice, that's delivery, that's everything that he is able to add to it. It's all preparation. And preparation doesn't stop when the game starts. Do you remember we did a whole show on what do you do in between innings?
Mm-hmm.
This is preparation here that happens in between innings and during the pitching change, right? Nestor Cortez is getting brought in, or now Mookie Betts is getting intentionally walked. There's all this that happens leading up to the World Series. Here we are now in game one, and here's all of the thought processing that happens over the course of the game.
Also reminds me of this line that I wish I had thought of myself, but I love to repeat it, which is you spend a couple of days preparing to call a basketball game. You spend a week preparing to call a football game. You must spend your entire life getting ready to call a baseball game, because it's not just what happened last week. It's what happened in 1988. It's what happened in 1986. It's what happened in 1981. All of these things matter when you're broadcasting baseball.
Boog Shambi calls a Freddie Freeman home run, Dodgers win. That is basically his call in this moment. That is a fine call, but there's something about the Joe call that transcends. Now, this is just game one of the World Series. We're not going to stop there with this show.
Let's get to game 4.
I don't think he's thinking about gap, clearing the bases right here. The New York kid, bases loaded, 2 out. Cranks a ball, deep left field. Volpe with redemption. Perfect place, perfect time, just what they needed. It's a grand slam, a jolt through the stadium and through this series.
Volpe walked his first time and stole the base. Well, he got the bases loaded and 2 out as Hudson deals. Swung on and hit in the air to left field and deep. That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. It's a grand slam. Anthony Volpe put a charge in one. A grand slam to left field, and the Yankees now take a 5-2 lead.
Now, if you heard my interview with James Rosenthal, he said that Anthony Volpe was having great at-bats, and he expected him to do something. I don't know if he expected him to have a grand slam.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a ball drilled left field. Hernandez back. Gone! Grand slam, Anthony Volpe over the left field wall. And Yankee Stadium explodes. It's 5-2 New York. The hit they've been waiting for.
That's what dreams are made of. A kid grown up, New York Yankee fan, giving his team the lead.
Now Volpe, bases loaded, 2 down. He's going to take a hit. Volpe drives one. Deep left. It is gone! The hit that's been missing for the Yankees all series long. And it comes from their 23-year-old shortstop. 5-2 Yankees.
What a swing for Volpe. First pitch slider, and they needed this in the worst way.
They're loaded with 2 gone. The first pitch, Volpe hits it hard left field and deep. Teoscar Hernandez turns and watches it fly. Anthony Volpe ambushed the first pitch from Daniel Hudson and puts the Yankees in front with a grand slam. The Bronx erupts, touches home, gets the bash from Aaron Judge. The celebration line as the young shortstop heads into the dugout with New York on top by 3.
And the first time since 1964 that both teams hit a grand slam in the World Series.
What stands out to you, Josh?
I'm going to start at the beginning again with Joe Davis's call. He says the New York kid. And I think that any time that you have a storyline of a player is back home, whether it's a 6-game series in minor league baseball, whether it's a 3-game series in the regular season in the major leagues, or whether it's a potential 7-game series in the World Series, how many times do you remind the audience that this is a New York kid, that he grew up in New York, that he went to the parade in 2009, the last time the Yankees won a World Series? When do you use this? Because you have to use it, and you want to use it a bunch, but you don't want to use it every single time. So in terms of when do you use it? sometimes you just get lucky and you happen to use it. And then on the first pitch, he hits a grand slam. But I do think that the lesson that I take from this is be selective when you use it. Wait for the big moments to use it. Don't use it when there's 2 outs and nobody on base. Use it in a big moment, right? So that, because let's face it, we live in the world of highlights. And I think we can get into how the sharing of these calls on social media immediately starts to impact the way that they are called, if you want to get into that. But I think that you want to save these important nuggets for these potential big moments.
He uses the New York Kid as a Joe Buck cheat because that allows Joe to immediately get into the verb cranked. And then when the ball exits, here comes your Adam Amin rule. What does Joe say? Redemption. He does not say grand slam until after Anthony Volpe has touched home plate. And then he says a jolt through this stadium and through this series. So there's our broadening into the ballpark itself and then trying to make it wider than that, the bigger statement about what this swing means.
I think that when you hear a whole bunch of calls in a row, you realize how many people use the word gone to describe home run, which is natural. It's gone. It's what a lot of us say on a regular basis. It's sort of like it's just like you don't say home run, you say gone. So that when you hear redemption for Volpe, when you hear like different phrases, it helps you differentiate the different calls and the different moments when it's not just the same verb every time, which, as we discussed earlier with the play at second, you can get caught when you're trying to come up with different verbs. So when you do nail them, they look even better.
This, though, did not turn the series toward the New Yorkers.
No, it did not. And so you want to go ahead and get into the final one here?
Yeah, because you know what happened in 1964? The Yankees lost the World Series that year, too.
Well, let's get to the end.
You know what it reminds me of, Josh, is in 1988, so Gibson's home run, Dodgers win. Didn't Jose Canseco hit a grand slam to help the A's win their only game of that series?
No, close. Canseco's grand slam is what gave the A's the lead in game 1. That was the only 4 runs of the game. Gibson's homer made it 5-4. It was Mark McGwire who had the walk-off home run in game 3. That was the only victory for the A's. And I want to say that Vin Scully's call was something like, the kid from Southern California breathes life into Northern California, as McGwire was going around the bases, because again, Vin just always knows the right words to say.
And Joe studies this.
Yes.
All right. Game 5.
Let's listen to how it ended with all the different voices again.
Dodgers a strike away from a championship, from a proper celebration. Start the party, Los Angeles! Your Dodgers have won the World Series! They cap off their 8th World Championship with a comeback for the ages from down 5-0 to win it 7-6 in 5 games in this clash of the Titans. The Dodgers over the Yankees. It's the largest comeback win in a clinching game in World Series history.
Here's the 1-2 pitch from Buehler. Got him swinging! That's it! It's a World Series win for LA! They've done it! They finished the job and give Los Angeles the parade it's been waiting for! Grown men but children again, living out their dream. It's over. They come back and win Game 5 by a final of 7-6. They win the 2024 World Series 4-1. Never forget this moment.
The 1-2. Swing and a miss. And the Dodgers are World Series champions. They storm out of the dugout third base side and mob Walker Buehler. The Dodgers have won it all. An amazing ball game where they showed so much grit, so much fight as they storm back from a 5-0 deficit. Down 6-5, they came back and they win it 7-6 in Game 5 and the 8th title in franchise history.
1 strike away from a World Series championship. 1-2. Verdugo strikes out swinging. Walker Buehler does it, and the Dodgers celebrate. They are the 2024 World Series champions. A remarkable, amazing, unlikely comeback win to finish off a spectacular year.
Here's the 1-2 to Verdugo. Breaking ball cut on and miss. Strike 3. Ball game over. World Series over. Dodgers win. Los Angeles is the new champion, and they're going nuts on the field. I don't blame them. When you see them jump around like this, boy, there's reason for it. They deserve it. They erased a 5-0 lead tonight. The Yankees helped. And the Dodgers win the ball game by the score of 7-6.
Walker Buehler contra Alex Verdugo. Lanza. Swing se lo llevó. Se acabó la temporada. Y los Dodgers de Los Ángeles son campeones de la Serie Mundial 2024. Vienen de atrás esta noche en una forma increíble. Le ganan a los Yankees 7-6 y se formó la celebración en el medio del terreno. Los Dodgers de Los Ángeles se van de Nueva York campeones del mundo en el béisbol del 2024.
Floor is yours to begin.
Oh, I got thoughts on everybody.
Let's hear it.
Joe once again sets up the narrative that the last time that they won the World Series, it's the pandemic. You can't party. There's nobody at the ballpark. And now they can. So that in advance of that final strike, that's really important. Steven Nelson does not have the same kind of vocal control of, let's say, a Tom Hamilton. However, I thought that his grown men but children, again, the words that Steven was finding for this, I appreciated. That he's looking at everything that is taking forth in front of him and trying to figure out what is the best way to describe this, and he finds youthful jubilation. I love that. And just one last thought about John Sterling. With the Freddie Freeman Grand Slam, do you remember how much John was just appreciating the baseball game? I feel like whenever John has come across, and there's been a call that you and I have enjoyed together, and there's John involved, that he just comes across as such an honest baseball fan. And there's Susan being honest with her disappointment with Freeman's Grand Slam and hear her well. But there's something about John where he goes, look, this is what it's about. This is how you feel. And I appreciate that from John. How about you?
The notes that I was taking similar to yours. Joe Davis using the word celebration and party. They didn't get to do
the party.
Yes. Steven Nelson said that it was a win for LA. And he used the word parade. Don't forget, not only did the Dodgers win in the pandemic year, the Lakers did as well. They got 0 parades for those 2 championships. And so a win for LA, a parade. I really appreciated those words. There's something about just saying 1 strike away. Joe Davis said it. We heard Dave Fleming say it. There's something about just 1 strike away that I really enjoy. And then the other thing that not everybody did, maybe they did it later because this is cut down and edited extremely well. Thank you, MLB and everyone else who edits these things for us. The year 2024 World Series champions. And not everybody did that. I think that, we talk about the timestamp on a no-hitter. Give me the year. Yeah. Give me the year that don't just say they are the new champions. Give me that they are the 2024 World Series champions.
And this goes back to what you were saying, where when you call that highlight and that highlight is dispersed, not just then, but for years to come, campeones de 2024.
So speaking of highlights, let's close the episode by talking about this, because I think that we're all broadcasters and we are influenced by what we hear. And I think in the 80s, we were all influenced by Vince Scully, which was very much like we did an episode about fastballs. Vince Scully never went over 100 miles an hour with his fastball, right? It was more of an understated. It was deliberate. It was laid back. It was then come up with a great caption. Now that everything is online immediately, and I'll go back to the main criticism when Joe Buck was doing Major League Baseball is that he wasn't really enjoying himself, that he wasn't really punctuating these big calls. The main reason is because he had problems with his voice and he was trying to save his voice because it was in deep trouble. I think another reason is that was his style. That was the style. It's also because it was 3.5 to 4 hour games and it was probably exhausting. But nonetheless, that was the chief criticism of Joe Buck, is that he wasn't delivering the goods with these big moments. I think that everyone's aware that that was the criticism of Joe Buck. And now I think we've gotten to a point, and I'm not here to say this is right or wrong. Actually, I am here to say that I like it. I like that people are going big with calls. Like, I don't want you to lose your mind where it becomes high pitched, that you're over the top on something that happened in June. But this is October. I want 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, Jesse. I want 100-mile-an-hour fastballs coming out of your voice. I want big calls. I want to know that you are a little kid up there who is loving the moment, but you have a grown man's voice to deliver this moment.
Yes. I love that idea that Joe Buck and his ilk are going, kids these days with their 2-hour games and their pitch clocks. I agree. I think that a guy like Harry Carey or Harry Callis or Dave Niehaus, these are broadcasters before their time, because you do want to feel the electricity of the moment.
And I do think there's something to be said that just knowing that these moments are going to be on social media immediately, that they are going to be dissected. When it comes to Kirk Gibson's home run, I heard Vin Scully's call hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times. I heard Jack Buck's call probably a couple of hundred times. I didn't hear Don Drysdale's call until about 2011 when I was working on a book about the Dodgers, and I found somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who had it. I didn't know what Bill King's call sounded like until a couple of years ago, when it took 5 different people before I finally found the right person who had a copy of it. Now we get all of these instantaneously. And I can't help but wonder, Jesse, if just knowing that your calls are going to be out there immediately impacts the energy, the volume, just the bombacity of the calls, knowing that it's so easy for anyone around the world to hear your calls.
Maybe. Yes. I will ring the alarm bells, and I will bring you right back to what Joe Davis said. When the Padres clinched a playoff berth, my chief complaint about Don Orsillo's call is it is scripted. He is reading words right now. This is not genuine coming in the moment. And that's not where I want us to go is, okay, it's a highlight. Everyone's going to have this. And I've got my thing that I want to say that I wrote down in my little notebook. I want the words to still be honest, and still you can prepare that. And whether it's been a Vern Lundquist or Jim Nantz, how do you sum up the NCAA tournament during March Madness? I think that we can find that happy medium, as Joe Davis did. And I think that you can show the emotion. You can punch a call all the while still sounding organic. So I will echo what you said, that you should bring it. I don't think that you need to bring it so much that you break your voice. I think that you need to understand how far you can go. And then I think that you need to understand the bigger picture of everything that you're saying. And if you're able to do that, then I think that moment should live longer.
Well, overall, it was a fabulous October. It was one of my favorite postseasons in a long, long time. And even though we're nitpicking calls and phrases here and there, bravo to all the different announcers. I thought, again, that it was a coming out party for Tom Hamilton. I thought that Joe Davis showed that he is, not that there was much doubt, but if there was any doubt, he is the premier guy at the right time in the right moment. I thought he was fabulous. I loved Adam Amin's work. I love Brian Anderson's work. I thought that the broadcasts just throughout the postseason were outstanding. The games delivered moments for them, and it was so much fun to watch. And now what are we going to do in the offseason, Jesse?
It's the saddest time of year, the time without Major League Baseball. There's other baseball. There's the winter leagues going on. And me, I happen to love hockey and basketball and football. I'll be okay. I've got all my books to read, but another season is behind us.
Yes. And another episode of Crafting the Call is behind us. Thank you all for watching. For Jesse Goldberg-Strassler of the Lansing Lugnuts, I'm Josh Suchon from the Albuquerque Isotopes. This is Crafting the Call.